Hey, welcome to the Direct Action Mailbag. Today we are working through a real small business question from an owner who brought forward a problem that a lot of business owners understand immediately, even if they do not always say it out loud. The business is busy, the schedule is full, the phone is ringing. Revenue looks better than it did last year. On paper, that sounds like progress. On the calendar, it looks like demand. From the outside, it may even look like the business is healthy. But inside the business, cash is still tight. Payroll feels heavier than it should. Vendor bills are arriving faster than money is landing. Customers are paying late. Jobs are taking longer than expected. Material costs keep moving. The team is working hard, but the owner cannot tell whether each job is actually making money or whether the business is just staying busy. I want to say this up front. I respect this question. I respect the owner who brought it forward. This is not a leader looking for someone to blame. This is not someone taking a shot at employees, the bookkeeper, customers, vendors, or the market. This is a business owner standing in the middle of pressure and choosing to ask a better question before making a move that could damage the business. That matters because cash pressure has a way of making leaders reactive. It makes normal problems feel personal. It makes late customers feel like enemies. It makes vendor bills feel like attacks. It makes payroll feel like a threat. It makes job overruns feel like proof that someone failed. But if we turn pressure into accusation too early, we weaken the read. So we are not doing that here. We are going to stay impartial. We are going to show appreciation for the owner who gave us the opportunity to work through this, and we are going to inspect the operating reality before deciding what action fits. Here's the problem as submitted. A small local service business has 9 employees. The business is not sitting around waiting for customers. It is not dead. It is not starved for demand. The schedule is full most weeks. The phone is ringing, and revenue looks better than it did last year. But cash is still tight. Every payroll cycle feels heavier than it should. Vendor bills are coming due faster than money is coming in. Some customers pay late. Some jobs take longer than estimated. Material costs keep moving. The team is working hard, but the owner cannot tell if the business is actually making money on every job or just staying busy. The bookkeeper says revenue is up, but the bank account does not feel like revenue is up. Now the owner feels pressure to make a move. Raise prices, cut hours, stop taking smaller jobs, push collections harder, delay purchases, maybe reduce staff. But the owner does not want to react emotionally and damage the business. So the question is simple, and it is a strong one. If the business is busy, why is cash still tight? And how do I figure out what is really causing the pressure? That is the right question because it does not assume the answer. It does not say, my people are the problem. It does not say, my customers are the problem. It does not say, my bookkeeper must be wrong. It says, help me understand what I'm actually looking at before I make the wrong move. That is leadership under pressure. The owner is not asking for a motivational phrase. The owner is asking for decision clarity. And that is exactly where the direct action system should be useful, not as a classroom lesson, not as a formal lecture, not as a list of clever acronyms. We are going to use the system as a working order of thought. We are going to move through CSA, then deepen, then pro, then ACE, then TCM, then PACE, then brain. We're going to use each part to sharpen the read, test the assumptions, identify the risk, organize the options, and move toward a practical operating decision. So let's start with CSA. Comprehensive situation assessment is where we slow the read down before we start solving. That does not mean we freeze. It does not mean we ask for endless information. It does not mean the owner needs to build a perfect financial model before taking action. That would be the wrong use of CSA. In this situation, CSA is not a research project. It is the clean read that keeps the owner from making a loud move against the wrong problem. The surface issue is cash pressure. The deeper question is where cash is being delayed, trapped, absorbed, or wasted between booked work and usable money in the bank. What do we know? We know revenue is up. We know the schedule is full. We know payroll feels stressful. We know vendor bills are pressuring the business. We know some customers pay late. We know some jobs take longer than estimated. We know material costs keep moving. We know the team is working hard. We know the bookkeeper says revenue is up. We know the bank account does not feel like revenue is up. And we know the owner is considering major action but does not want to act emotionally. That is enough to start. We do not need to sit in diagnosis forever. We already have the first signal. This probably is not a simple demand problem. If the phone is ringing, the schedule is full, and revenue is up, the first suspicion should not be, we need more work. The first suspicion should be, we need to understand why the work we already have is not converting into stable cash. Now, what do we not know yet? We do not know if the business has a margin problem. We do not know if it has a collections problem. We do not know if labor hours are leaking profit. We do not know if estimates are too optimistic. We do not know if material cost changes are being absorbed instead of passed through. We do not know if invoices are going out late. We do not know if payment terms are too loose. We do not know if deposits are too low. We do not know if overhead has grown faster than gross profit. We do not know if debt payments or owner draw are putting pressure on cash. We do not know if the business is taking work that fills the calendar but does not strengthen the business. We also do not know if the bookkeeper is giving accurate reports that are simply arriving too late or too generally to help the owner make week-to-week operating decisions. That distinction matters. A bookkeeper can say revenue is up and be completely accurate. The owner can still be cash tight and also be completely accurate. Those two things can both be true. That is why this problem is dangerous. It tempts the owner to pick one explanation too early. If the owner says customers are the problem, the business may push collections harder while ignoring poor invoicing discipline. If the owner says employees are the problem, the business may cut hours while ignoring bad estimating or weak job packets. If the owner says prices are the problem, the business may raise prices broadly while ignoring rework, scope creep, or slow receivables. If the owner says small jobs are the problem, the business may stop accepting work that actually turns quickly and pays cleanly. Same cash pressure, different causes, and different causes require different actions. The CSA read needs to widen for a minute. From the owner's view, this is a pressure problem. Payroll has dates. Vendor bills have dates. Rent, insurance, fuel, software, debt, taxes, supplies, and payroll taxes do not care that the schedule is full. They come due when they come due. That makes the owner look at the bank account and feel exposed. From the bookkeeper's view, revenue may legitimately be higher, but revenue is not cash. Revenue can be recorded before cash is collected. Profit can appear before the money is usable. A profit and loss statement can look better while the checking account feels worse because receivables are slow, payables are tight, payroll timing is heavy, debt payments hit, or jobs are not producing enough gross margin. From the employee view, the issue may look completely different. The team may see jobs that were estimated too tight from the beginning. They may see customers adding small requests that turn into unpaid scope. They may see missing materials, unclear job details, poor scheduling sequence, or rework caused by rushed handoffs. They may be working hard and still losing margin because the system around the work is loose. From the customer view, payment may not feel urgent if the business has not made payment terms clear. If deposits are soft, invoices are late, reminders are inconsistent, and change orders are not documented, the customer may not understand how much pressure their delay creates. From the vendor view, costs may be rising and payment windows may be short. The vendor is not necessarily being difficult. They may be managing their own cash pressure. From the market view, the business may be operating inside a cost environment where labor, materials, insurance, financing, software, and customer expectations all moved at the same time. So CSA tells us something important. This is not one clean financial issue. This is a cash conversion problem until proven otherwise. The business is generating activity, but the owner needs to know whether that activity is converting into invoices, whether those invoices are converting into cash, and whether that cash is carrying enough margin after labor, materials, overhead, debt, and timing. That is the spine of the episode. A full schedule is not proof of control. Revenue growth is not proof of stability. Hard work is not proof of profitability. The owner has to inspect the path between booked work and usable cash. Now, we do not need more CSA than that to move forward. We have enough of a read to enter deepen. Deepen is where we decide what kind of problem navigation fits. This matters because the owner has a lot of possible moves, and not all of them belong in the same category. Some moves are immediate controls, some are deeper analysis, some are precise corrections, some are emergency actions. If the owner treats all of them the same, the business can overreact in one area and ignore the real break in another. The first deepen path that fits is in-depth analysis, but I want to define that carefully for this problem. This is not a long investigation. This is not a 6-month review. This is not the owner disappearing into spreadsheets while payroll pressure keeps building. In-depth analysis here means a tight review of the last 30 to 60 days and the next 30 days. Look at cash in, cash out, payroll dates, vendor obligations, debt payments, open receivables, completed jobs not yet invoiced, invoiced jobs not yet paid, jobs that ran over estimated labor, jobs with material cost movement, jobs with rework, jobs with scope creep, and job types that look good in revenue but weak in margin. That is the analysis. It is focused. It is practical. It is not academic. The second deepen path is surgical approach. This business does not need a sledgehammer unless the situation is already at the edge of failure. If the problem is late invoicing, fix invoicing. If the problem is unpaid receivables, fix collections, rhythm, and payment terms. If the problem is weak deposits, fix deposits. If the problem is labor overrun, inspect estimating, job packets, crew assignment, rework, and schedule sequence. If the problem is material volatility, update pricing rules and change order controls. If the problem is overhead, inspect recurring costs and fixed obligations. If the problem is work mix, stop treating every revenue dollar as equal. Surgical approach means the owner does not redesign the entire business just because cash feels tight. The owner finds the failure point and cuts there. The third deepen path is tactical resolution. There are practical moves the owner can make now that improve control without creating damage. Invoice completed work the same day. Review open receivables every week. Require deposits on larger jobs. Flag jobs that exceed estimated labor before they are finished. Pause discretionary spending for a short control window. Review upcoming payroll against expected deposits. Contact vendors early when timing pressure is real. Check whether jobs are completed but not billed. These are not dramatic moves, but they change control quickly. The fourth deepen path is obstacle redirection. The owner is probably staring at the bank account because that is where the pressure shows up. But the bank account is the warning light. It is not always the engine problem. The owner has to redirect attention back through the operating chain. Was the job priced correctly? Was the labor realistic? Was the material cost protected? Was the invoice sent quickly? Was the payment term clear? Was the deposit enough? Was scope controlled? Was the customer allowed to delay payment without consequence? Was the work worth the capacity it consumed? That is how the owner stops reacting to the warning light and starts inspecting the system that created it. The fifth deepen path is manual engagement. The owner cannot completely outsource this read. That does not mean the owner stops trusting the bookkeeper. It means the owner must personally understand the next 30 days of cash pressure, the largest unpaid invoices, the largest vendor obligations, the most questionable jobs, and the payroll risk. A bookkeeper can help record and organize the picture. An accountant can help interpret the financial structure, but the owner owns the operating decision. At this stage, The owner should be close enough to the numbers to know what matters, but not so buried in detail that they stop leading the business. The sixth deepened path is critical intervention, but we reserve that for actual continuity risk. If the business is close to missing payroll, losing a key vendor, damaging essential operations, or taking on emergency debt, then the owner may need immediate cash preservation. That could mean freezing non-essential spending, collecting the largest overdue invoices, requiring deposits on all new work, pausing low-margin work, negotiating vendor timing before being late, reviewing owner draw, and speaking with the accountant or banker before the situation becomes a crisis. But that is not where we start unless the facts say the business is already at that level. Critical intervention is not a feeling, it is a response to a real break point. So Deepen gives the owner a better set of options. Use in-depth analysis to locate the failure point. Use surgical approach to fix the exact break. Use tactical resolution to regain control now. Use obstacle redirection to stop staring only at the bank account. Use manual engagement where owner-level understanding is required. Hold critical intervention for payroll, vendor, and continuity risk. That is a much better structure than raise prices or cut people. Now we can look at Pro. Pro asks, what is at risk across the personal, role, and organizational dimensions? Start with the personal risk. The owner is carrying a real pressure. That pressure can affect sleep, health, patience, family life, confidence, and judgment. A business owner under cash strain can start to feel like every person around the business is creating pressure. The customer who pays late, the employee whose job ran long, the vendor asking for payment, the bookkeeper giving numbers that do not match what the bank account feels like, the spouse asking why the business is still tight if revenue is up. That can become a heavy load. The personal risk is not that the owner's weak. The personal risk is that fatigue and fear can start making decisions before the owner does. Now look at role-related risk. As the owner, this person has to protect payroll, vendor relationships, customer trust, service quality, pricing discipline, team morale, and the reputation of the business. If the owner cuts hours without understanding the margin problem, they may damage capacity. If the owner raises prices without understanding which jobs are actually weak, they may create customer resistance without fixing the real leak. If the owner pushes collections without tightening invoicing and terms, the same problem will repeat. If the owner blames employees before checking estimates, scope, job packets, and rework, the owner may damage trust with the very people needed to stabilize the business. The owner's role requires a measured response because people watch how a leader behaves when money gets tight. Now look at organizational risk. If this continues without correction, the business can become unstable even while it looks active. Payroll may become harder to cover. Vendors may tighten terms. Service quality may drop because the team is stretched. Good employees may feel pressure without understanding the reason. Customers may experience delays or inconsistent communication. The owner may take on expensive debt or make emergency moves that reduce future options. The quiet danger is that the business becomes proud of being busy while ignoring whether the work is actually healthy. That is how a small service business can work hard every week and still lose control. The pro read is simple. Personal risk is owner strain and poor decision quality under fatigue. Role risk is credibility, trust, and the ability to make defensible decisions. Organizational risk is cash instability, vendor pressure, payroll strain, and operating drift. That tells us the owner does not need drama. The owner needs control. Now we move to ACE. ACE is where we challenge the assumptions before locking onto an action. The first assumption is that the business needs more revenue. Maybe, but the facts do not point there first. If the phone is ringing and the schedule is full, more sales may not solve the problem. More weak margin work can make cash pressure worse. More work can mean more payroll, more materials, more vendor exposure, more vehicles moving, more admin, more mistakes, and more receivables waiting to be collected. Growth without control is not relief. It is pressure with better packaging. The second assumption is that the business needs to raise prices. Maybe if labor, materials, insurance, fuel, software, and overhead have increased, pricing may need to move. But the owner should not raise prices blindly. A broad price increase may be appropriate if the whole cost structure moved. But if the real problem is one service line, one type of customer, one job category, one crew pattern, one material exposure, or one repeated scope issue, the better move may be a targeted adjustment. Price is not just a number. It is a control mechanism. It should match the work, the risk, the time, the cost, and the value. The third assumption is that customers are paying too late. Some of them probably are, but ACE forces the owner to test the business side too. Are invoices being sent immediately? Are terms clear before work starts? Are deposits required? Are payment reminders consistent? Are customers allowed to start new work while old invoices remain unpaid? Are change orders documented and billed? Are large jobs structured so the business is not financing the customer's project? If the business sends invoices late, follows up inconsistently, and leaves terms soft, then customer lateness is only part of the issue. The fourth assumption is that the team is taking too long. Maybe. But what would prove that? Were the estimates realistic? Was the work clearly scoped? Were materials available? Did the crew have the right information? Was the job scheduled properly? Did the customer add work? Was there rework caused by poor handoff, rush planning, or unclear expectations? Sometimes employees are inefficient. Sometimes the estimate was wrong before the truck ever left. Those are not the same problem. The fifth assumption is that smaller jobs are not worth it. Maybe, but small jobs can be healthy if they are priced correctly, completed quickly, scheduled cleanly, and collected fast. Large jobs can look impressive and still hurt the business if they tie up labor, require expensive materials, invite scope creep, and take too long to pay. The owner should not judge work by invoice size alone. Judge work by margin, cash cycle, complexity, labor load, material exposure, and impact on the schedule. The sixth assumption is that the bookkeeper's report should match the owner's bank account feeling. It will not always match because those are different views. Revenue tells one part of the story, cash tells another. Gross margin tells another. Receivables tell another. Payables tell another. Payroll timing tells another. Debt tells another. Owner draw tells another. The owner does not just need financial records. The owner needs a weekly operating view that connects the financial record to decisions that must be made before the next payroll cycle. That is the ACE conclusion. The owner needs evidence, not anxiety. The right question is not, which explanation feels true? The right question is, what evidence would prove which failure point is strongest? Once that evidence is visible, the decision becomes cleaner. Now we need TCM because this owner cannot stabilize the business with thought alone. The work has to be assigned, communicated, and controlled. TCM matters because cash control touches multiple people. The owner, the bookkeeper, the person sending invoices, the employees doing the work, the person ordering materials, the customers who owe money, and the vendors who need payment are all connected to the same pressure. If the owner communicates poorly, the fix can create fear. If the owner delegates too loosely, the fix can drift. If the owner keeps everything private, the team may keep repeating the same patterns without knowing what needs to change. Start with direct engagement. The owner should personally lead the first cash control review. That meeting should include the bookkeeper and, if needed, the accountant. The goal is not to build a beautiful report. The goal is decision visibility. What cash is available right now, what deposits are expected, what payroll dates are coming, what vendor bills are due, what debt payments are scheduled, what jobs are completed but not invoiced, what invoices are open, which invoices are overdue, which jobs are in progress and exposed to labor or material overrun, which jobs are scheduled but not yet started, what large purchases are coming before payment arrives. The owner needs that picture directly. Then use supervised tasking. The owner can assign parts of the system, but the rhythm needs oversight until it is stable. The bookkeeper can maintain the weekly cash view. An admin or office manager can make sure invoices go out same day. A lead employee can flag scope changes. A supervisor can report labor overruns. Someone can track deposits. Someone can update receivables. But because this is a control problem, the owner should not delegate the process and vanish. Not yet. Supervised tasking gives the team responsibility while keeping owner-level control. Then use asynchronous communication. This business needs simple written controls that reduce drift. Payment terms written into estimates. Deposit requirements written into job approval. Change order language written clearly. A weekly cash snapshot. A receivables list. A job margin tracker. A simple note on jobs that exceed labor estimate. Written communication matters because cash pressure often grows in the spaces where everyone thought someone else understood the agreement. Then use real-time communication. A short weekly cash and operations huddle can change the entire rhythm of the business. It does not need to be long. It needs to be direct. What completed last week? What got invoiced? What remains unpaid? What jobs ran long? What material costs changed? What jobs this week carry risk? What customer issues may affect payment? What decisions does the owner need to make before Friday? This is how the owner turns cash pressure into operating discipline. Then use direct interaction for the sensitive conversations. A large overdue customer invoice may need a real conversation. A vendor timing issue may need a direct call before the bill is late. A price change with an important customer may need careful explanation. A team schedule change may need direct leadership, not a vague message. If the relationship matters, choose the communication method that protects the relationship while still protecting the business. And that is TCM in this situation. Direct engagement for the first cash review. Supervised tasking for the control system. Asynchronous communication for written terms and trackers. Real-time communication for the weekly operating huddle. Direct interaction for high-risk customer, vendor, employee, or financial conversations. Now we can organize the action with PACE. PACE gives the owner a hierarchy of options: primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency. That matters because not every pressure needs the emergency plan. If the owner jumps straight to emergency action, the business can damage itself. If the owner refuses to build an emergency path, the business can get caught unprepared. PACE keeps the owner honest. The primary plan should be a 30-day cash visibility reset. That is the best first move because it creates control without unnecessary damage. For 30 days, the owner tracks cash on hand, expected deposits, payroll, vendor, bills, debt, payments, open, receivables, jobs completed but not invoiced, jobs invoiced but unpaid, jobs in progress, jobs that exceeded labor estimates, material cost changes, scope changes, owner draw, new work booked, and work declined. This gives the owner a real picture of whether the pressure is timing, margin, collections, labor leakage, overhead, or reporting rhythm. It also creates a habit the business can keep after the immediate pressure drops. The alternate plan is a receivables and payment terms reset. If the owner finds that the business is earning money but not collecting it fast enough, then the path from completed work to cash has to tighten. Invoice, same day. Require deposits on larger jobs. Clarify payment terms before work starts. Send reminders before invoices become old. Review receivables every week. Do not let unpaid invoices sit unnoticed. Do not allow customers with overdue balances to keep adding new work without a payment conversation. Document and build change orders. This is not about becoming aggressive or disrespectful. It is about refusing to let completed work become silent debt. The contingency plan is margin and work mix control. If the owner finds that certain jobs are busy but not profitable enough, then the business has to inspect work categories. Which services produce strong margin? Which services absorb labor? Which customers create repeated scope creep? Which job types require expensive materials before payment arrives? Which jobs look good in revenue but fail in cash? Which jobs are small but fast, clean, and profitable? Which jobs are large but slow, complicated, and risky? Once that is visible, the owner can adjust pricing, deposits, scheduling, estimating, service offerings, and customer selection. That is work mix discipline. The emergency plan is cash preservation. This is not where we start unless the facts require it, but it must exist. If payroll, vendor continuity, or essential operations are at risk, the owner has to move into preservation mode. Freeze non-essential spending. Pause discretionary purchases. Contact vendors before becoming late. Collect the largest overdue invoices. Require deposits for new work. Pause low margin or high risk jobs. Review, owner, draw. Protect payroll and essential operations first. Talk to the accountant or banker before the business is in a corner. Emergency does not mean chaos. Emergency means controlled action under real risk. Now we run brain against those options. The benefit of the 30-day cash visibility reset is that it gives the owner evidence instead of emotion. It shows where the pressure is coming from and protects the business from overcorrecting. The risk is that the owner collects information but does not act. That is why the reset needs weekly decisions, not passive observation. The alternative is to start with a smaller version if the owner is overwhelmed. Top 5 overdue invoices, top 5 upcoming cash demands, last 10 completed jobs, and the next 2 payroll cycles. The immediate action is to build the cash map now. The time-sensitive piece is payroll, vendor pressure, and any job currently running over cost. The benefit of the receivables reset is faster cash conversion. The risk is customer friction if the owner changes tone too abruptly or communicates poorly. The alternative is to apply new terms to new jobs first, while handling existing customers professionally. The immediate action is same-day invoicing and weekly review. The negotiation piece may be payment plans, vendor timing, and customer conversations around deposits. The benefit of margin and work mix control is that the owner stops treating all revenue as equal. The risk is cutting or repricing the wrong work before the evidence is clear. The alternative is to run a sample review before making permanent changes. The immediate action is to review the last 10 completed jobs and compare estimated labor, actual labor, materials, invoice amount, collection time, and rework. The timepiece is that pricing and work mix changes should be implemented carefully so the business does not shock good customers or confuse the team. The benefit of the emergency plan is survival protection. The risk is morale damage, customer damage, and capacity damage if emergency actions are used too early. The alternative is a controlled preservation window with clear boundaries. The immediate action is only triggered if payroll, vendor continuity, or core operations are truly at risk. The negotiation piece is early communication with vendors, lenders, customers, and advisors before the situation becomes harder to manage. Brain gives us the best first answer. Do not start with layoffs. Do not start with a blanket price increase. Do not start with blaming customers. Do not start with blaming the team. Do not stare at the bank account and call that management. Start with a 30-day cash visibility reset. Make low-risk control moves immediately and let the evidence tell you where the sharper action belongs. So for the owner listening, here's the operating sequence I would use. First, sit down with the bookkeeper or accountant and build the next 30 days of cash visibility. Not a complicated dashboard, not a software implementation, a clear view. Cash today, expected deposits, payroll dates, vendor bills, debt payments, open receivables, jobs completed but not invoiced, jobs in progress, and jobs scheduled. Second, identify the top 5 pressure points. Largest overdue invoice, largest upcoming vendor bill, largest job at risk of labor overrun, largest completed job not invoiced, largest material purchase coming before payment arrives. That gives you the pressure map. Third, review the last 10 completed jobs. For each one, compare estimate to actual, labor expected versus labor used, materials expected versus materials used, invoice amount, collection time, change orders, rework, customer behavior, payment timing, margin. This does not need to be perfect to be useful. Patterns will show up fast. Fourth, set temporary controls for all new work while the review continues. Deposits on larger jobs, same-day invoicing, clear payment terms, change order approval before extra work, weekly receivables review, job labor tracking, no silent scope creep. Those controls do not accuse anyone. They protect the business. Fifth, communicate with the team carefully. Do not panic them. Do not dump financial fear on them. Do not make them feel like payroll is their burden, but do tell them the operating truth they need to know. The message can be simple. We are tightening how we track jobs, labor, materials, scope changes, and invoicing. The goal is not to blame anyone. The goal is to make sure the work we are doing is actually strengthening the business. A full schedule is good, but we need that schedule to produce healthy cash and healthy margin. That is clear. That is fair. That is leadership. Then keep the rhythm. Every week, review cash, receivables, job margin, labor overruns, upcoming payroll, vendor bills, and jobs at risk. Keep it simple. Keep it factual. Keep it disciplined. A small business does not need a corporate finance department to improve control. It needs a repeatable operating rhythm that shows the owner what is happening early enough to do something about it. And I want to say this directly to the owner who submitted the question. You are right not to react emotionally. You are also right to take the pressure seriously. A business cannot survive forever on activity that does not convert into usable cash. But the answer is not automatically to cut people. It is not automatically to raise prices. It is not automatically to stop taking smaller jobs. It is not automatically to push customers harder. Those may become valid moves, but they should come after the read, not before it. The real issue is control. Where is cash getting delayed? Where is margin getting absorbed? Where is labor leaking? Where is scope changing? Where are invoices slow? Where are terms too loose? Where are materials moving faster than pricing? Where is overhead heavier than the business can support? Where is the reporting rhythm too slow for the decisions the owner has to make? Once that is visible, the owner can act at the failure point instead of swinging at the whole business. For everyone listening, this is why the Direct Action Mailbag matters. Real leadership and operations problems are rarely clean. They come with pressure, incomplete information, competing explanations, people, money, and consequences. The leader's job is not to accuse faster. The leader's job is to see better, choose the right navigation path, understand the risk, challenge the assumptions, communicate the control, build the plan, stress test the decision, and then move. The final takeaway is this. Busy is not the same as stable. Revenue is not the same as cash. A full schedule is not the same as control. Hard work is not the same as profit. If you own a small business and cash is tight while work is strong, do not let the calendar fool you. Inspect the path from booked work to usable cash. Find where the money slows down, thins out, gets absorbed, or disappears. Then fix that point with discipline. Do not cut blindly. Do not raise prices blindly. Do not blame the team blindly. Do not blame customers blindly. Run the cash visibility reset. Tighten receivables. Inspect job margin. Control labor leakage. Review work mix. Protect payroll. Communicate clearly. Move with control. That is how a business owner stops guessing and starts leading the business through the pressure. Thanks for listening.